You might have heard about many different types of diets out there. I've personally tried a bunch of different diets because of my fitness journey, and you're probably wondering which one is the best for your health, right? Now, and I'm not here to recommend you anything, but I'm just telling you based on my own personal experience and the way I eat. I eat what's called, you could say, maybe a whole food plant-based vegan diet. I add the vegan there because I'm personally vegan for like some ethical reasons, and then of course environmental and health. I'd say the health was the first reason, and when it comes to the health aspect, that would include a whole foods plant-based diet, right? So what is a whole foods plant-based diet? A whole foods plant-based diet is basically void of basically like ultra processed or heavily processed foods. It's going to include a lot of whole foods, and it does not mean that it is a diet that's necessarily void of any animal products. If you are not, like, let's say vegan, but you still eat animal products, you can have a whole foods plant-based diet with, let's say, maybe a couple of, I don't know, maybe so whatever animal products you want to eat, maybe every now and then, but not something that you would eat all the time or with every meal. This would kind of be similar to like maybe a Mediterranean diet or even like a vegetarian diet. To preface, I am not a nutritionist. I'm basically just a gym bro who likes to work out and who is a nerd about, health and stuff like that. And I've sourced basically nearly all of my information from many professionals. Two that I would like to point out would be Dr. Greger and nutritionfacts.org, and Simon Hill with the Proof or Plant Proof podcast. And you should really check out a podcast with Simon Hill and Rich Roll where they talk about building strength and muscle on a plant-based diet and all the nutritional markers that you need to hit in order to, get all these levels. The two people that I mentioned, Dr. Greger and Simon Hill, they're both expert nutritionists, and they are both really well respected within the world of plant-based nutrition. So definitely go check them out. Check out their websites or their channels, and I will have that podcast with Rich Roll and Simon Hill in the description, along with the Simon Hill podcast, Plant Proof, and nutritionfacts.org. So food groups you should focus on, or basically most of the food groups that are, I would say, within a whole food plant-based diet would be fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains, and legumes. And I'll kind of go down all these foods and give you reasons why. But just to kind of preface a little bit, having all these foods whole are going to allow for the attachment of all these nutrients and fiber, which kind of gives a more satiating effect. So for one, most of these foods are very low in calories. I'd say not even most, all of them are very low in calories, but they're very high in nutrients, right? And so with them being high in nutrients, especially like micro and macronutrients, they allow for you to be fuller and to feel fuller longer on less calories. So it's a good way to be able to kind of burn fat and lose some weight without having to kind of like, count calories and stuff like that, right? Another thing too is I just mentioned micro and macronutrients. So macronutrients are kind of like the big components of food that we usually look at. So that would be like protein, carbs, and fat. These things you can kind of almost see within those food groups. And then micronutrients, there's like loads of micronutrients. They're usually like minerals and vitamins that are found within many food items. And micronutrients are probably going to be more important than macronutrients. And when you're eating a plant-based diet, especially one with whole foods, you're going to be getting a micronutrient-rich diet. This way of eating will also be rich in antioxidants, which will allow for better health, recovery, and longevity overall. So I'm going to start off with legumes, beans, and lentils, which are in the legume family, right? So the reason why I'm starting off with this because, people might think like, well, where do you get your protein? If I'm on a whole foods plant-based diet, how do I get my protein, blah, blah, blah. Especially like you might not be relying on, let's say, protein powders or something like that, or mock meats, which are going to have more protein in it. But I get most of my protein through the way I eat from legumes, so that would be lentils, beans. I personally like black beans, chickpeas, red lentils, right? And what I just mentioned are some of the healthiest lentils. And then also, or not lentils, but beans. And one thing to also mention when it comes to, I guess, a good, strong protein source, the soybean is very good when it comes to protein because it's one of the most complete protein sources within the, I guess, like plant world. And that can come in the form of like tempeh or tofu. I personally like tofu. Tofu is so versatile. You can put it with anything. You can cook it in so many different ways. And it's very cheap, right? You can get like a good bit of it like this for like $2 at Walmart, or even less if you go to like some like Asian market stores. And no, soy does not kill testosterone, nor does it feminize you. There's bodybuilders who have been vegan for like decades, 10 years plus, and some of them have maybe even never eaten meat and they don't have something like gynecomastia, right? Maybe pointing to me, I have gyno, but I've had gyno like way before I became vegan, right? I've only been vegan for about 5 to 6 months now. So no, soy is not an endocrine disruptor, and it does not throw off your hormones or whatever the case may be. If anything, many animal products are going to throw off your hormones more so than plant foods. And adding more things to legumes or talking about more things about them, they're going to have a lot of fiber, great source of dietary fiber. Of course, with fiber, you're going to have more regular bowel movements. With more regular bowel movements, that means your gut microbiome is better able to digest your food sooner and is better able to allocate the resources to your body a lot sooner. Because, like, bro, some people like, listen, man, like, this, especially girls, like they, I'll talk and they be like, oh, I haven't pooped in like, 2 days or whatever, or like they poop like girls, like people that are women in my life that I know, pooping every other day. Are you serious? Don't you eat every day? And it's stuck in your body? And this might not just be for women. This could be for many people, right? Many people, most Americans only get about 15 to 20 grams of fiber within their diet on a daily basis. And so it's like, no wonder why people are constipated, right? So it's very interesting that like something so simple, beans of all things, which is very cheap. You can go to Walmart and get like a pound of it for like $1.50, and you're just immediately increasing your health just by a long shot. It's such a cheap investment that you can make every time you go to the store, right? Another thing too is they're rich in antioxidants. Antioxidants are going to allow for basically better blood flow. Better blood flow means you're going to have lower blood pressure. With lower blood pressure, you're going to have less risk of like heart disease and stuff like that, type 2 diabetes. All these things can be reduced or even like not have any type of risk factor at all if you start including these types of foods into your diet, right? And I mentioned before, some of the healthiest beans or legumes, whatever, that you can eat would be red lentils, which I love. I love making curries out of them. Black beans, chickpeas, I believe pinto beans as well. But these three that I mentioned before are my top three. There's all different types of lentils as well. And I love chickpeas and black beans, right? Those are pretty main staples. And then soybean, of course, like I mentioned, tofu. I love tofu. And yeah, so there's definitely a lot of options that you can explore. If you're not already getting legumes in your diet at all, just try with what you think you're gonna like, or just put some in there. And of course, when you're preparing legumes, when you're cooking them, you want to basically soak them overnight, specifically if you're getting dried beans. You want to soak them overnight or soak them for 6 to 8 hours. And then you want to boil them until they're like soft, right? But if you have an instant pot, you don't have to soak them or anything like that. You just throw them in there, put them on whatever setting, and it can take like maybe 45 minutes to an hour depending on the bean. Moving on to, drumroll please, vegetables. Eat your veggies, kids. Eat your veggies. So with vegetables, this can include leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, fungus, like mushrooms, starchy vegetables, whatever. Like you want to eat a variety of vegetables, right? You want to eat as much as you would like. There's so much out there. I like to eat sweet potatoes, spinach, kale, okra, broccoli, spinach, what else do I eat here? Mushrooms. There's so much stuff. There's such a large variety of like vegetables out there you can eat, and you're gonna like them. Cook them in certain ways. I'd say it's definitely important to cook some of your vegetables because sometimes, depending on how you cook it and what you cook it with, it's going to allow for the nutrients to come out a lot better. Like, let's say onions and mushrooms, when you cook them and they go into a state of caramelization where they kind of like soften or start to brown, that's when a lot of the nutrients is being like kind of released there, right? So then instead of, let's say, eating them raw, especially mushrooms, you should not eat them raw. You're kind of getting a lot more nutrients in with it. Including more whole vegetables into your diet would allow for a myriad of benefits, such as a like reduce in diseases like chronic illnesses or diseases such as like cancer, diabetes, heart disease, all these things that are very common within the Western world. And then, of course, inflammation, as again, basically almost all plant foods have some type of antioxidants in them, and which inflammation is usually a cause of kind of like buildup of pressure in specific areas of the body. And of course, when your arteries are able to not be clogged anymore, and they're opening up and having blood flow through them, which allowing your body to kind of oxygenate more, that's going to be just a lot better for your general health and longevity, right? So you don't have to worry about getting a hip replacement when you turn 60, or having to walk around with a cane, or my back, my back. Nah, I can't walk like good like I used to. I started to have back, my knee. I can't come up these stairs cause nah, bro. Come on, bro. You want to be like that? You want to be like that when you're old? No, I don't want to be like that personally. So eat your veggies. And with fruit being sweet, people worry about the sugar that's found in fruit. Sugar should not be something that's worried about within fruit, especially since fruit is connected to the other nutrients as you're eating it whole, right? So fruit being connected to fiber will allow for the sugar to come into your body. Your body's going to digest the fiber along with the sugar, and you're not going to get a blood sugar spike, right? Like how, let's say, if you're eating Oreos or drinking Coca-Cola, because you're getting this sugar that's like quickly entering your system almost out of nowhere, and your body's like, what's going on? So stuff like that, can lead to diabetes, can lead to all these problems that we have in modern society. So it's very important for us to eat fruit whole and to avoid maybe juicing our fruit, because when you're juicing fruit, you're extracting all the juices. All the juices are going to contain but just about most of the sugar, and that husk, right, the meaty part of the fruit that you would eat, it doesn't have like that has all the nutrients in it, right? That would allow for the sugary juices to basically assimilate into your body effectively. When it comes to fruit, I'm not really going to give you a list of things, but you can take any fruit. I mean, to be honest, anything that you like, of course, things that are edible, of course, and just eat them. Eat however much you would like. I personally like watermelon. You probably like, of course, your black ass would say watermelon. Mangoes, bananas. What else? So like apples, oranges. Those are pretty good right now since they're in season. And I also really like blueberries. And I would like to mention that blueberries are very important when it comes to cognitive health. So they allow for a reduce in cognitive decline as you get older, right? When you get older, people can become senile and they start to repeat the same things on and on when they get older, or they get your name wrong. By including berries in your diet, that can allow for that to be reduced. And that's, let's say you're not eating a whole food plant-based diet, but you're eating blueberries, whole blueberries, like that can have major effects on cognitive function, as well as cognitive function in general. Like, let's say just improving your cognition. Maybe if you have an exam, maybe for breakfast, you might want to have like I don't know, some blueberries, a blueberry smoothie, blueberry pancakes, just eat the blueberries. I don't know, whatever you want to do. And that takes place within hours just of eating the blueberries. So I'd say those are very, very important to add to your diet, right? So keep that in mind. Next up are whole grains. So when it comes to whole grains is basically like the grain. I'll have a picture up. I don't know all the terminology, but the grain itself that's connected to the bran and the germ, and that is gonna have like all the fiber and nutrients in it, right? So one thing we want to avoid is refined grains, which is very common within our diet. So examples of refined grains would be like white flour, white rice. I might be missing some other ones, but white flour is very commonly found in like basically like everything that we like to eat, that's like tastes good and whatnot. So you're gonna find it in like bread, pastries, donuts, uh, any type of like dough or breading, like I don't know, pizza dough. You're gonna find it in pasta, noodles, whatever the case may be. And since it's no longer connected to its clothing, right? You can kind of call the bran and the germ its clothes. You're removing all the nutritional value from it, and you're kind of just consuming those calories, right? But what could be better is to search for alternatives, whole grain alternatives or whole wheat alternatives, right? If you still like pasta, still like bread, you can look on the back, look at the ingredients, and find whole wheat flour, right? With whole wheat flour, it's still attached to fiber and many other nutrients, and that's going to be of greater benefit, right? And other examples of whole grains would be, let's say, brown rice, wild rice, quinoa, spelt, rye, millet, whatever you like, whatever you want to choose. I personally eat a lot of quinoa. I basically replaced rice with quinoa, but I'll also eat brown rice over white rice. It's not like I don't eat white rice or something anymore. I might eat it here and there, but in general, in terms of like what I make in my home and what I eat, I generally don't eat white rice anymore. So it's very important to get in these whole grains into your diet. And it's very important to, of course, look at the back of packages and look at the back of, I don't know, stuff to look at ingredients and see what's actually being put in the food that you're eating. Lastly, we have nuts and seeds. I'm putting these two together as they kind of have the same properties. Nuts and seeds are going to be lower in carbs and higher in fats. Just about every single plant food that I mentioned before are carbs, basically. So when it comes to nuts and seeds, they're a lot more fatty, rather than being carbs. And it's going to be high in mostly your omegas, like your omega fatty acids, which are going to be very important for brain health and function, along with having what's called unsaturated fat. Unsaturated fat is basically the only type of fat that's found within plant foods, whole plant foods specifically. And this does not raise cholesterol, specifically LDL cholesterol, which is your bad cholesterol. But saturated fat, which is found in all animal products that you eat, and is the only type of fat found in animal products, it can increase your cholesterol, and increased cholesterol can lead to a higher risk of heart disease. Another thing to mention about fatty acids, right, the omegas that I mentioned, 3s and 6, when it comes to why we need them because those are nutrients that we cannot produce within our own body. We have to kind of get them through outside of our body, aka through our diet, so that way they can be assimilated into our body for health. So of course, there's some nutrients that we cannot make within our body, that we have to get, from our food. And that kind of takes me to the point of supplementation, right? So on this whole foods plant-based diet, do I take any supplements, or should you take any supplements? And I think that you should, right? I think any diet, whether it's an omnivorous diet or even, I don't know, a ketogenic diet or whatever, should have some type of supplementation in it, right? We're not able to get every single thing from all the food we eat. And the whole point of a diet is to not be the most perfect, best diet in the world, but it's to basically have most of your grounds covered, right? Just about most of everything covered. But if you need to take supplementation, then that's fine. Some people might not need to take supplementation if they go by feel and they feel like, they don't feel deficient in anything, they don't feel off, they don't feel bad. Their, levels are pretty consistent with everything, and that's fine. But the ultimate way of being able to actually see everything is by getting your blood levels checked, by, going to a lab or whatever. But mentioning the supplements that I take a vitamin B12, which is very important for being on a vegan diet, as most plant foods are not sufficient enough in B12 in order to basically get the job done. Of course, it is found in animal products, but where do the animals get their B12? They get it from the food that they eat. And most of the time, the animals that we eat also are given B12 injections, or they're given B12 through the food that they eat. So whether you're eating meat anyways, you're still getting basically a B12 supplementation at the end of the day. So that way it's like, you can't really say that eating a whole foods plant-based diet is deficient in anything, especially when the animals that we might eat on a day-to-day basis are technically, their diet is deficient, right? So yeah, it's just a simple thing, just to take a B12. It's been speculated that B12 was found within the dirt on the vegetables that we would uproot, and found within the water within running streams, which would have been water sources for us. But due to pollution and modern agriculture, B12 is not as sufficient enough within the soil or within running streams. So it's important that we just take a supplementation. Another supplement I take is D3. I think D3 is very important. It's a vitamin that we make when we get exposure to the sun. But with how most people live their lives, we're not out in the sun all day, every day. Some people might live in areas where there's not a lot of sun, especially depending on your skin color. So like me being black in America, I'm not gonna have the best way to produce D3, especially when it's cold out, or it's raining, stuff like that. But it's not something everybody might have to worry about depending on their environment and where they are. But most people, vast majority of people, have some type of deficiency within their D vitamins because they're not getting enough sunlight exposure. So it's very important to just take a vitamin, which I do. And my vitamin is also like a multivitamin with K2 in it as well. Like I stated before in the beginning of the video, I'm not some type of expert in nutrition. I'm not a doctor or an MD of any type, whatever. But I'm just a super nerd who loves learning about stuff and loves educating myself when it comes to health. And I feel like you should kind of be the same way as well, right? Maybe not all the way like me, but you should be willing to go out and to educate yourself and to find these professional resources to take from and to learn from, and to maybe even pass on the knowledge to many other people around you, right? I think it's very important for us to look at what we put into our body and to see what effect it has on us. If you would like to see maybe like some examples of meals when it comes to eating a whole foods plant-based diet, I do have a video where I go in like what I eat in a day. And then if you would like to know why I personally am vegan, I do kind of detail that within another video of mine. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have a good one, and peace out.